All right, we are live. Today's guest is definitely in the top 5 people you need to meet in 2024. He's an entrepreneur, a longtime real estate investor. He's worked alongside some of the biggest names in the real estate and sales business, and one of the most positive and growth-minded people I know. Today, we're looking at Vancouver through the eyes of Doug Myers, real estate investor, sales trainer, podcast host, and all-around entrepreneur. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about real estate and living in Vancouver, subscribe below. Welcome to my weekly series, Vancouver Through My Eyes, where I interview a local Vancouverite and we talk about what it's like to live, work, play, and invest in Vancouver. Tap the bell for notifications to be the first to hear insight from our latest guest and to keep current on all things Vancouver real estate. My name is Megan Becker, local realtor. I'm passionate about our city and helping people make moves within it. So give me a call, text, or email, and I'm excited to help you make moves in the best city in Canada. Hello, Doug. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for the very kind intro. If I'm top 5 for people to meet, I don't know, maybe I need to be in public a little bit more, but thank you for that. That really made me feel good.
Absolutely. You're definitely my top 5.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll get into it. So let's start off. Tell me why do you call Vancouver home, or Vancouver, the greater Vancouver area, home?
Yeah, great question. And it's kind of ironic. I'm actually not in Vancouver right now. And if you can hear, there is a float plane taking off in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, which is kind of funny timing. But those kinds of things happen in Vancouver and surrounding areas. So I'm actually in the Sunshine Coast right now. My parents have a place up here.
Lovely.
40-minute ferry ride from downtown, or not downtown, Vancouver area. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Port Moody, which is a suburb about 40 minutes east of downtown. Lived in Vancouver most of my life, and I will say this about Vancouver too, having been born and raised there, and then left the city to work in the mining industry. And I lived in, central British Columbia. I worked in the Northwest Territories, in the prairies. You come to maybe take for granted some of the things that are just so ingrained in being in Vancouver, like the mountains and the ocean and all these different outdoor activities. It's just funny. It took me leaving Vancouver to really come back and to when I came back, really appreciate what it was. So I apologize if I'm not answering your question because I got totally distracted by the float plane.
No, that's a perk of living here.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, I mean, I've lived, like I said, in Port Moody, out near the UBC campus. I've owned property in Langley and Surrey. So I have a really, well-rounded grasp, and as well as all the activities I'm involved in terms of just being outside and stuff.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that, activity-wise. Like, what is it that you do for fun? Why do you like certain areas as opposed to other areas in the city or in the area?
Definitely. I mean, I used to be a big basketball guy, which is more or less just finding different gyms to play. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more involved in more outdoor activities for sure. So I do a ton of hiking. My wife and I sat down and planned our summer of activities, and we've just been knocking things off the list. We did the Grouse Grind a few weeks ago. We hiked Mount Seymour on Saturday. So that's part of the North Shore Mountains.
Very cool.
We got up to Squamish for the Sea to Summit Trail and the Sea to Sky Gondola. We did a day trip to Whistler. Like, I don't know, I'm not trying to be a poster boy for your show, but like literally that's one of the cool things about this place is it's that easy to, with a little bit of intention and effort, find these incredible places that you're just like, this is like here. And I drove 30 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for us. And I think for anybody who's, considering living here, you do have a higher cost to be here, right? Rent's higher.
Exactly. Yeah.
Vehicle costs around insurance and gas prices and so on and so forth. But you, in my opinion, you make up for it in the free value, if you really value those activities, whether it's going to the ocean, taking a walk in the forest, just catching a view from the mountains. Like, it's those kinds of things that, like, that's to me what you pay for. And I love that because, yeah, I mean, I do a ton of that stuff, a ton of those kinds of things outside that really keep me active and engaged.
Absolutely. It's for me, it was the same way. It's the lifestyle that this area affords.
Yeah, because you're from Edmonton, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I actually had a friend ask me today, they're like, why did you move to Vancouver again? It's
Yeah.
so expensive. And maybe I'll ask you a similar question. You've obviously lived in other places, you've
Yep.
purchased real estate in other places. You can buy a single family home for what it costs to buy a small condo here. You could buy that in Edmonton or in Calgary or in
Mhm.
Saskatoon. So what is it for you that, you talked about the activities, but at some point when you're making a comparative analysis here, what it is for you?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's like, what do you value, And this may, like, be a bit of an aside on kind of more mindset and personal development and that kind of thing. Like, a lot I find, this is a wide generalization, but I find that a lot of people who, are my generation, our generation, um, are easily dissuaded from being in Vancouver, or, like, not being able to make sense of the cost, and they accept, it just being more expensive, and that they can't do certain things. And I don't
Yeah.
believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that with the right hard work, the right connections, the right willingness to make it happen, you don't have to have those same burdens. Now, it is going to be hard because, it does cost more to live here. If you want to have a home, there's a price to that, and that's just a reality. But that said, there are a lot of people here who have houses. So obviously there are people who are doing it. They work stable, good jobs, they own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, whatever they may be. Maybe they were really successful somewhere else. They came here to enjoy the lifestyle that we have. It's totally possible. So I don't think that's an excuse. Now, that
I
said,
totally agree.
though, yeah, you're right. I mean, I bought a good amount of investment real estate, and you can buy, a full-on house with a yard and a two-car garage and all that kind of stuff in Regina, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Alberta, to an extent. Certainly in the Northwest Territories. Not that you'd want to be there, but you can do those things. So if you value more having the house and the yard and those kinds of things, and having the toys and just having a little bit more flexibility, I guess, and you don't aspire to increase your income or take on certain levels of risks, that's fine. That's not a problem. But it will be a challenge to do that in Vancouver.
Hmm.
So again, it just goes back to what people value personally. No judgment on any of that. But having lived in some of these other places, it's totally doable to be making 60, 70, $80,000, have a house, have it completely paid for, two vehicles, kids go to the nice schools. Like, that is reality, if you're willing to go to some of these other places. So I think people just kind of have to decide for themselves, uh,
Hmm.
if that's more important to them, or if, I'm going to take maybe a little bit smaller space to, have the lifestyle I want in Vancouver, or hey, I want that house too. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to start the business. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to make investments. And then, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I'll have that property that I really, really, really want. And I'll
Yeah.
be in Vancouver, and I get the best of both worlds. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's just me.
Yeah, you spoke about opportunity as well that I want to touch on, and that was one of the things that inspired me to want to move to Vancouver from Edmonton is the amount of opportunity here. And
Mhm.
you're right, it costs more to live here, but at the same time, there's more opportunity. And I really believe that you're a product of the people that you associate with. And I would love to hear you, because you're in the entrepreneur space, hear about opportunities that you have found that have benefited you in your businesses, just being in and around Vancouver area and networking with people here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that, because like before I got more into being interested in business, before I started to want to take those leaps with my real estate investing, um, I was very closed off. And I think it's really easy for I get people in Vancouver to make maybe you've heard this. Oh, it's cliquey. Or like people aren't friendly and they don't talk to each other. Like I used to believe that, and I grew
Yeah.
up here. And that's more it's more a reflection of people who grow up here than I think people who come here. Coming back, you realize, well, you make the most of what it is, and there are
Exactly.
rules for everything, right? You want to be part of the beach volleyball community. Man, those people are amazing, right? They're super fun. They're always out there. You want to run marathons. You want to do paddleboarding. You want to go hiking. You want to be a business person. Like, it's all here, all these things are here. So in terms of the resources for me, or the opportunities that are available, I'll just speak to something that's going on right now in the nature of time. Like I am looking to acquire a small business by the end of the year. And so what's cool about looking for that kind of thing in British Columbia, and I'm narrow it down to Vancouver, is you have a lot of successful business owners who started their business, 20, 30, in some cases 50 years ago, now at that point where they need to retire or want to retire, just want to do something else, or maybe they have health concerns. And these businesses are for sale. So people like me, and other people like me who, want to run a business, but they maybe don't want to take on the risk of, doing a startup. These are amazing times and amazing opportunities. So, like it's been crazy to connect with many of these different business owners and just see like, wow, there's a real community here of people who are doing business, who've been successful. And if their business is operating well, you start to really look at numbers. Then you go, oh, well, wait a second. This is how I can afford it sounds ridiculous, the $2 million home.
Yeah.
This is how I can afford the $1 to $1.5 million home, right?
Exactly.
It looks like, because you see the numbers on their business and you go, oh, they're taking a little bit of risk for an outsized reward. And as a result of that, my cost of living concern comes down a lot more because my earning has gone up. There's a risk reward curve. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the point of the show.
Yeah.
Saying that those businesses are here, and whether you want to be a part of one or you want to own one, that's a great way to come to this market, be of value, create value, and ultimately, really enjoy both sides of the coin, both, earning some good income and having a nice home that you can live into.
Yeah, exactly. One of the other things I'm curious to ask you, so you and your wife, you live in Port Moody.
Yep.
And you previously bought an investment condo in Surrey, which I got the opportunity to help you and your brother sell.
Right.
So maybe tell me a little bit about that. So you live in Port Moody. Why Port Moody? Why did you choose to purchase a condo in Surrey?
Well, the first thing you need to know is that Megan is an awesome realtor. You pay me to say that. Megan did an amazing job selling this condo that my brother and I had owned since 2014. It was our first investment property together.
Yeah.
Honestly, Megan handled some tricky situations with the buyer. And also with the person who lived above us. Like many deals, there are a little bit of things that got a little hairy, and she did a really good job. So,
thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And, I haven't been able to throw as many deals as I'd like her way, but she'd definitely be somebody I work with again. So we'll just put that aside for now.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. In terms of why we bought there, though, I mean, this is 2014. This is before Surrey had really started to do a ton of development. I was 21 at the time. And my brother was an engineer as well. He was a couple years ahead of me. He had a little bit more money. I couldn't afford to do the deal all on my own. So I partnered with him and we went 50-50. I just told him, I was like, hey, in 4 years, we're going to pull out 100 grand from this thing. And he had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, don't worry, just trust me. And we
Give me some money and trust me.
Literally, it was like, yeah, we refinanced it 4 years later. We pulled out, I think it was like $100,000 and $700. Like, it was ridiculous how spot on I was. But like, why did we buy there? We just, you know, one of the things that you learn in real estate investing is when you see a market that is doing really well and is strong and economic fundamentals are there, and people are moving to it, there is what's known as the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, people love Vancouver for many of the reasons I listed, and I'm sure many of the reasons why, if you're watching other episodes of this, people will talk about temperate climate, you know, the mountains, the oceans, you know, the opportunity, the good food, right? Like clean air, all these things that are just like here. People were moving to Vancouver, and Vancouver being kind of the center. Well, if you can't necessarily afford to go in Vancouver, prices go up. Well, that ripples out. And so you see that into Burnaby, to Richmond, to North Vancouver, across the river to Surrey. And Surrey, why we chose there was because they made it very clear. This is around 2010 or so, right after the Olympics. They made it very clear that they wanted to be bigger than Vancouver in 2040. And they put together a whole plan for it to develop their downtown to effectively compete with Vancouver.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that seems like a really good opportunity, because you could buy in Surrey for, you know, half the price that you could buy in Vancouver. I don't know if those numbers are still the same, but nonetheless, like, you know, I wish I had bought more because our assumptions were correct. Values did rise.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I took that and I recognized the same thing it was pushing out further and further. So, you know, on the next deal, a few years later, we bought in Langley City, and that same lift has happened there, you know, out to Abbotsford, to Chilliwack. You know, there's this constrained bubble around land and space in Vancouver. So, you know, you have people that want to come in, you have a limited amount of housing, you know, supply, demand, economics say prices go up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what is it about Port Moody that, why do you guys enjoy calling that home?
Well, for one, I grew up there, so I'm very familiar with it. Two, it's a little bit quieter. It's a great place for, in my opinion, people my age who want to start a family and who don't necessarily want to be in the noise and hustle and bustle of, say, Burnaby inwards. Not to say there aren't quiet spots in Burnaby and Vancouver, but Port Moody, as its name suggests, is like a port place. Yeah. And it's right where the inlet ends, you know, between the North Shore Mountains and then the rest of Vancouver. So, you know, it's just a beautiful spot. We have this amazing shoreline trail that they put in. There's a place called Brewers Row, which if you're a big beer drinker, you know, that's just a fun place to go. It's become a lot more vibrant. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, we were blessed to have a place where, you know, we have an amazing view. We have the mountains right behind us. And we're close to transit as well. It used to be a little bit harder to get into the city because of the lack of the SkyTrain and so on and so forth. But they've really done, in my opinion, a good job of making the area a lot more transit accessible. And so you can live in Port Moody and have a job downtown and hop on the train and be there in, I think, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's much faster than actually driving.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, the accessibility has made it a lot better for people that want to commute in, but also who want to have maybe a little bit more of a quiet suburb type life with good schools, all the amenities you still have and need, and you know, maybe just a little bit more space.
Hmm.
So that's what I like about it. And of course, it's very, very familiar to me as well.
Yeah, I always say Port Moody for somebody that wants the little bit quieter but loves the outdoor nature. You've got the mountains right there that can be on the water,
Yeah.
sunset paddleboard, like just that kind of stuff. It really suits that lifestyle.
And the irony of Port Moody too is like if people are picturing it, they haven't been there, you might be thinking like, oh, there's like a port area and then it's like kind of flat around it. And that's where the place is like, no, Port Moody's got like, I don't know, 80, maybe 100,000 people. I could be wrong. You would know better with the stats, but it's like you do have the water area,
Hmm.
but then it surrounds and it actually goes up the hill on the one side,
Yeah.
you know, really up into the mountains on the other. So it's like you have panoramic mountain views, and then you also have kind of the oceanfront, the waterfront areas, and then, you know, homes in the forest and stuff. So it's a good mix of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you said currently you're out on the Sunshine Coast, which is one of my favorite areas. But tell me there. So you said your parents have a place out there. Give me a little bit of an idea. Why would someone be drawn to the Sunshine Coast, whether a vacation property or potentially, to live part-time out there?
Yeah. Well, at the expense of being a dink, this is why.
Yeah.
This is the ocean, right?
Beautiful.
I'm not saying this to like, oh, look at us. Side note, right? My dad ran a business for a number of years, worked really hard, was able to create these opportunities.
Yeah.
It's funny. Sorry, there's the eagle flying down off the tree.
Oh, very cool.
People are gonna
Yeah.
love me, or they're gonna hate me. I'm like, this guy's so big.
Just some dolphins swimming.
Actually, orcas came into the bay like a few weeks ago. No
Yeah,
joke.
we've seen the list sold out there. They would regularly see them.
So why up here? Well, take Port Moody and some of the quieter areas of like the suburbs in Vancouver and accelerate that by like 3, 4, 5 times, but still be close to the city in a sense.
Yeah.
So why people love it up here is it a much quieter, slower pace of life. You're still close enough to the city, but you have that like rural quietness here. Okay. So like when it's nighttime, it's silent.
Yeah.
And you're not far away, right? So you can always go back to Vancouver if you want. It's like a $60 ferry ride to go both ways. Like it's not expensive. And that's the other thing too, why people like it here is because if you maybe work remote in Vancouver, you got to go in once a week, you can do that hybrid arrangement.
Yeah, exactly. I know multiple people who do that.
Yeah, and your price point is like much lower. So this
significantly.
Depending on your audience, this might sound a little bit ridiculous, but like for people who know here, they know that this is significant difference. If you want to live on the water in anywhere in Vancouver, like I don't know a place on the water now that would be like less than 2.5.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe 3, probably more.
Yeah.
Here, you can live on the water for like, you sold a place for what, 1.7, 1.5?
1.8, yeah. 1.8, and it had a secondary dwelling, so you can find,
right?
Yeah.
You have rental revenue. You can get waterfront here with a beautiful view for, again, 1.5, maybe 2.5 will be a big house.
Mm-hmm.
Places here, this is a townhome complex. This is under $1 million, I think. I know when they bought here, this was under $1 million. So like, that dream, like, oh, I want to live on the water. And I like, you can do that here. You got to be willing to move and still work hard. But it is doable. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, there's something about you hop off the ferry here, just like,
yeah, shoulders just drop. I felt the same way going out there. It's such a relaxing area.
Yeah, that's why people like it up here. That's why I like it here.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate all of your perspective in just the areas and what you're doing business-wise, opportunity, because I think that is really going to add value to people. that are considering areas that maybe can relate to you. And so I guess the last question for you before we wrap up here is, how can this community support you? What are you looking for if you're looking at with connecting with other individuals in the area?
Yeah, I think for people who are looking at to come here, you know, there are so many groups that are free, that connect in a social way, that you can just you can get in and learn a lot about things while enjoying the things that you already do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like, I know, Megan, you're pretty big into like CrossFit and, paddleboarding. And so like, I remember when you came here, you like, that's where you went. And,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden now you've got a network of people who are, they're playing volleyball on the weekend. They're hiking up, Mount Seymour at 2 a.m. to see the sunrise.
Yeah.
Like, and so you just start having organic conversations with those people. You learn a lot about, oh, have you considered Gastown? Have you considered this spot? Have you considered this? Have you been to this restaurant? It's really easy to just get networked and connected that way and feel like you're not like just like a small fish in a big city.
Yeah.
Because that can happen to people that don't engage with the world that they move into, and then they get upset and then they want to leave.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas somebody who already knows, coming from Edmonton or Calgary or Winnipeg or wherever, hey, like, I'm really into, playing hockey. I'm really into, motocross. Like, those things all are here. So
Mm-hmm.
go on Facebook, go online, find the meetup, find the gym that you can attend, like find the hockey rink. All that stuff is here. And it's really easy to just like get into that and make connections and learn things about different neighborhoods and stuff that might be of interest. And who knows, maybe one day
Absolutely.
somebody that helps you and takes you to the next chapter of life, whatever that looks like.
For sure. All right. So last question before we wrap up is, what's the best way that this community can support you? You mentioned you're looking at evaluating different businesses right now. How can people potentially connect with you or help you move forward in that area?
Yeah, I mean, if like I'm not a huge social media guy right now. I'm just trying to stay as focused as I can on finding a business to buy. If people do want to connect with me, they can search me on LinkedIn, just Doug Myers. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's I'm trying to find a business to buy. So if somebody sees this out there, they either run a small business, they know somebody who owns a small business, or they're actually doing business with another small business here in Vancouver. They happen to know that person's maybe looking to consider selling or doing a succession plan for their business. Let me know. I'm actively looking at opportunities each and every day, trying to find the right fit. So yeah, if anybody does see that and that's helpful, great. If not, that's cool too. I'm hoping that this will be helpful for whoever watches this and considering coming to Vancouver. It's a great place to be, and honestly, I wish everybody the best who sees this.
Absolutely. Well, I'll put your info in the description box below as well. My info is in the description box. So if you want me to connect you with Doug, I am absolutely happy to do that. And we'll wrap it up there. So thanks so much for joining me, Doug. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. As you guys know, I love helping people make moves within our city here. But my second favorite thing to do is connecting the incredible people within it. My goal with this series is to highlight what it's like to live, work, play, and invest in Vancouver and connect all the amazing people within it. So if you know anyone who shares a unique perspective on living in Vancouver, I'd be so grateful if you could connect me with them. All my info is in the description box below. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the video, and see you all next week, where I'll be back with another interesting guest.
Cool. Thank you.